chess. Everyone knows it, and I bet at least one of you maybe even knows how the pieces move. If this is you, then congratulations. You may have a 20-second mental break to rest that big brain of yours. As for the rest of you, pay attention. I only have 20 slides, and you better be sure I'm not wasting more than one of them on this. Here is a diagram showing all the pieces. Sometimes pieces are allowed to make special moves, but these instances are so rare it's best not to waste your short attention span on them, as you will most likely forget about them before I finish the sentence. Just remember, most pieces travel in straight lines, some further than others, and the horsey one moves in the same shape your hand makes when you have to remember which direction left is. Alright, your mental break is done, big brainers. It's time to learn some tactics so you can look less like the beginner on the left and more like the world chess champion on the right. Oh? You don't know who he is? Well, you can look forward to getting the same amount of recognition when you eventually become the world champion. Alright. Spot the differences between these two images. That's right, there is none. In chess, this is what's known as a fork. Imagine the horse is the handle and the arrows are the two prongs of the fork attacking the other pieces. This is significant because there's no way for your opponent to block both threats at once, meaning you can take whichever piece they don't move out of the way on the next turn. Here's an example of a fork. Usually you'll see knights performing forks because nobody truly understands how they move, and they are less predictable than the other pieces. However, I used a queen in this example because the queen has many prongs at her disposal, meaning she can be just as, if not more, efficient than the knight in picking up food. Let's move on to another tactic. This one's called the skewer. Don't go all hungry on me now, I swear. This is the last name associated with food. In the example, the king is being attacked by the rook and is forced to move. However, once the king moves, the bishop will be captured by the rook. Now white is winning the game because black just lost a piece with no compensation. In more general terms, a skewer is when a valuable piece is being attacked, but if that piece is moved, the piece behind it will be captured. More valuable first, less valuable second. The reason I took the time to explain this definition is because it often gets confused with this next tactic. A pin is when the less valuable piece is in front of a more valuable piece, meaning you do not want to move the piece in front because you will lose your more valuable piece in the process. Often, the more valuable piece is a rook, queen, or king. If it's the king, then you are in big trouble, because even if you wanted to sacrifice the more valuable piece to move the lesser piece, you can't because the rules of chess won't let you put your king in danger. Consider this variation on the example. If black moved their knight to the highlighted square, they would win because white would be in checkmate. However, the knight is pinned to the king by the rook and cannot move to that square. White has saved themselves from checkmate by using this tactic to their advantage. Now here's a good one. This is called a discovered attack. Look at this bishop. This bishop is very sad. It can't move anywhere. And look at this. The black queen is in a powerful position in the center of the board. Too bad the bishop is blocked in, so it can't attack the queen unless we move the knight. Now our bishop is suddenly attacking the queen, and black has to respect the threat. We can take this a step further. Let's say that in this variation on the last position, what would be better than just discovering an attack on the queen? How about putting the black king in check with our knight while discovering an attack on the queen? This way, it's impossible for black to defend the queen and the king, and must move the king, and cannot stop the capture of the queen. If you like to live dangerously, then the double check is for you. It's an extension of the discovered attack, wherein both the discovered attack and the piece you moved attack the king. Because of this, your opponent must respond by moving the king, as blocking or capturing will not be enough to eradicate both threats. In this position, the knight has just moved to this square. A beginner may think this is a bad move since the pawn could easily capture the knight, but slow down. The rook would still be checking the black king if the knight was captured, so black must instead move his king, and in the process lose the queen because the knight has a fork. Overloaded pieces. In this position, you think both black's bishop and knight are defended by the pawn. However, that pawn is an overloaded piece. It's doing multiple things at once by defending the two pieces, but it can really only defend one piece at a time. White can just take the knight with the bishop, then after the black pawn captures white's bishop, white's rook can just capture the black's bishop. White took advantage of the overload and won. This is called a Zwischen, whatever. It's German for in-between move. Basically, it's when you have an opportunity to take a piece, but you do something that would put your opponent in a worse position first. This is the most difficult tactic to use effectively as it requires more intuition and instinct. In this example, the pawn has a fork on the two rooks. The situation looks dire for white, but white has the opportunity for an in-between move. White can check the king with the rook on the left, black will be forced to move the king, then, on the next move, white can move the other rook out of the way of the pawn. What a save! X-rays! Don't worry, this tactic will not cost you thousands of dollars in medical bills each time you perform it. It's when you defend or attack a position through an enemy piece. It often gets confused with skewer, but the main difference is, it sounds cooler. And also, it usually occurs on your own piece. In this example, our knight is about to be captured by the enemy king. There is no direct path to defend the knight with our rook, but we can defend the knight through the king like this. This makes it so that the king cannot capture our knight, as doing so would still leave it in check. Now that's quite the maneuver. Whew. You got all that? That was a lot of learning to do so quickly, so let's have a quick recap, shall we? We went over forks, skewers, pins, discovered attacks, double check, overloaded pieces, swishes, in-between moves, and X-rays. That should be more than enough for now, right? Now that you know all these tactics, you should be able to school your average person in chess. However, if you want to beat anyone who has seen this presentation, you must practice these skills. You will start to notice the patterns and play better. Now go, and maybe you will become as popular as that world champion guy you didn't know the name of earlier. That's not even him on the screen right now. That's a random person I found on Google.